The main thing we're trying to accomplish is just survival. You know, you got to break them out of the shitty civilian habits they're in and let them know, hey, mommy and daddy aren't here anymore.
Stop freaking flying! Wipe that grin off your freaking face!
Could go in a combat zone in which your life could be at risk. If they're not disciplined, if they're not trained, if they're not ready, then that's going to be their lives on the line at the end of the day. So that's what we're trying to instill in them, is just the will to fight and the ability to do so.
Come on!
My name is Josh Schaffrin. I'm a captain in the Army, used to be a staff sergeant, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. Drill sergeants have to be the standard bearer. You know, if we cut corners, if we make sacrifices, if we funnel somebody else along, then we're putting our future NCOs in jeopardy.
Did you get that from Abercrombie? Is that f***ing Army Jude? No, it's not. What makes you think you can get away with it? Get your butt out of the air.
If I send out a private and say that he met the standard when he didn't, then I'm making his platoon sergeant, that sort of first class, his job that much harder. And then there also goes the future of our nation, if you think about it. You have to have the discipline and the integrity to do your job. Without discipline, you're not going to be pulling security that could cost your life. Without integrity, you're not worth serving alongside. From my personal experience, I always try to instill in them the will to fight and prepare them for war, because that's what they could face. And just the high op tempo being in the military, it's a stressful job, being away from your friends, your family, sometimes your spouse. Just to mentally prepare them for that, it's always a challenge for sure. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis with each individual person. Sometimes you got to yell at them, sometimes you got to talk to them like an adult. At the end of the day, you got to treat them with dignity and respect. You know, and based off my experience, that's what I've found. Like, if you yell the entire time, you're ineffective. So I usually yell during red phase the first 3 weeks, but if I have to yell all the way to week 10, week 19 for OSUT, then I'm ineffective. So sometimes you just got to sit down with them, talk to them man to man, and be like, look, this is the issues I'm seeing, we need to fucking fix them, and put the ball in their court. But sometimes people need more pushing, sometimes people need less. It's all on a case-by-case basis. But you generally know when they're at their breaking point. You gotta break them, but once you break them, you gotta rebuild them. Usually it took about a cycle or two under my belt to learn how far I can push them and what's the most effective options. But ultimately, it's just trial and error. It's kind of like being a parent. It's like having a kid, you get to watch them grow. But my first cycle, I was really hard on them, and my next cycle, I had to dial it back just to make sure that I wasn't just breaking them the entire time. Attention to detail is everything. You know, you got to be squared away, and if you're not used to like making your bunk properly or blousing your boots properly, how are you going to see that ID on the side of the road when you're in Afghanistan? How are you going to see that guy hiding behind the bushes when you're in Iraq? You know, attention to detail is everything. It starts, and if you can't master the little things, you'll never be able to accomplish the big things. We drill it into your head so that you know how to reload when you're under pressure. You know how to fire and shoot accurately while under stress, so that when you're in that situation, muscle memory takes over, you can still survive, right? And honestly, any good NCO, I think, can be a drill sergeant, because you already know how to do all the skill level 1 tasks, at least you should. Drill sergeant school is just teaching you Trade Doc 350-6, the regulations you need to abide by to train the soldiers, as well as just building on the skills you already have, or maybe learning how to teach it a little bit better. Learning how to teach it to a civilian, that's a different ballgame. So everybody always remembers their drill sergeant. They may not remember their first platoon sergeant. They may not remember their recruiters, but every trainee I had will remember me till the day they die. Yeah, you're gonna have your favorites. You might like the ones that are funnier. You might like the ones that call cadence. Try to get in the character. All right, I'm there. That easy.
Left, keep it in step. You're gonna repeat that.
301, take one.
1, 2, 3 and a quarter. 1, 2, 3 and a quarter. I got a date with the general's daughter. I got a date with the general's daughter.
And to me, as a drill sergeant, that was my favorite part, was calling cadence. Usually you have the drills that like it, they like to be the radio, they'll call it all the time, and then you have the ones that either aren't good at it or don't care for it. But there's nothing more motivating than a whole formation just echoing cadence really loud.
I like how you're talking to them like a drill sergeant. You're like, hey guys, listen up.
Hey, isn't that? It's in my genes.
He's method.
Yeah, very.
Soldier, quit talking in my formation.
What really helps bring a group together is having a common enemy, and that usually is the drill sergeants. So that's kind of what we're there for.
What is your problem, Private? What is your freaking problem? Why are you smelling and take up drill sergeant? Pick the gear up right now. Get it. Pick it up and comply with the directive that you were given.
Now, if that happens to be a soldier within the platoon, then, well, that'll bring everybody else together, but then that one soldier's being ostracized, right? That's what really helps get them all on the same page. If one soldier f***s up, all right, I'm gonna punish all of you, until either you help me fix a soldier by policing him up on your own accord.
I asked you a question. Do you understand?
It typically just gets everybody on the same page and unifies them a little bit more quicker. I used to say as a drill sergeant, I don't yell, I speak loud enough for everybody to hear me. Because I'd rather yell at this guy and say, hey, blouse your boots, and then 6 other guys hear it and they fix their boots if they're not.
You need to get your life together, Private.
My drill sergeant, he was a hard ass for sure, but he definitely rebuilt me pretty well. And I remember one thing that he said to me, he's like, what kind of grades you get in high school? And I was like, I had a 3.0, drill sergeant. He's like, you got a 3.0. Then why the are you so damn dumb? But he was hilarious at the end of the day, and that's kind of the same approach that I try to take, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's wife, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's uncle, right? Or father in some cases. So I always treated them with dignity and respect, which is what they deserve. But I also try to keep it lighthearted and fun as much as I could. You can't do that all the time, and give them an inch, they'll take a mile. But for the most part, you can have a good sense of humor with it for sure.
I can't not call fat bodies giant sacks of elephant jizz. I just can't do it.
For f***'s sake!
Come on, First Sergeant, it's my go-to.
There was one situation where they were getting down behind the 249, and they had camelbacks on, and one of the trainees unscrewed the camelback to a soldier in front of him, and when he got down, the water just splashed all over him. And like the kid, he was kind of off a little bit anyway, but he was like, who opened my fucking camelback? And I just had to go like this. That's usually like if you see us doing this, we're trying not to laugh. And like, we don't want them to see our teeth, or see us laugh. So I'm going like this, and luckily the other drill sergeant like just started yelling at him, and like I just needed a minute. And then I snapped back into it, but it definitely happens. They say some stupid shit. They do some stupid shit. But it's usually pretty funny at the end of the day. And oftentimes, we're really not that mad, we're acting, right? Because like whatever, we know they're gonna be f***ed up. But sometimes, yeah, it is funny, and it's hard to keep your bearing. During your time, either on the trail or during your time in the Army, you're sometimes you're gonna be motivated to stay in, sometimes you wanna get the hell out of there, it all kind of depends. Oftentimes, while people are serving, they think they can get out and get any job they want, and sometimes they can, but oftentimes they can't. Like, oh, my dad knows a guy, my brother works here, I used to work here, I'm getting my degree while I'm in, so I can get this job. A lot of the times that falls through, or even crazier than that, and a lot of people in the Army may not believe me right now, they miss it. They may not miss the early formations and staying late for work, right, but they'll miss the camaraderie. They might even miss the structure. Basic training is actually very well structured. In the operational Army, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But they miss mainly the brotherhood you establish with your brothers and sisters in arms. But the last thing I want to see is somebody just get out and then be a homeless veteran on the side of the road. And unfortunately, that does happen. The suicide rate is super high for those guys because all of a sudden, like they don't have that camaraderie anymore and they miss it. The friends I used to hang out with now got to go to the field and they can't talk to them so much. Oftentimes, I would advise somebody if they think they might be in that situation, try to find a job that may be like a DA civilian, Department of the Army civilian, so you still have a taste of it. But at least have a plan so you know what you're doing, so you're not just home alone with your own thoughts the entire time. Veteran suicide, 22 a day, right? Like that's super common. And they say, I used to see that 22 push-ups a day thing. I say forget that. For 22 minutes a day, call people. Call that old sergeant major that's now retired. Call that PFC that's now a staff sergeant. Just check in, see how people are doing. If they were to do that for 22 minutes a day, that would be instrumental in curbing veteran suicide, I think. Yeah, sometimes drill sergeants, sometimes soldiers especially might hide their problems, whether that's a mental issue, whether that's a physical issue, because they don't want to be a burden to their unit, they want to go deploy, they want to, go out to the field or whatever the case may be. But if you need help, get it. I don't care if it's your ankle, I don't care if it's your brain, I don't care what the issue is, seek help because you have to live with yourself the rest of your life, you know what I mean? And all that high-speed stuff's well and good, but at the same time, you got to think about what about 20 years from now? What about 30 years from now? Get the help you need and make sure your mind, your body is in good working order in order for you to be the best soldier, the best person you can be. But oftentimes, yes, people will neglect their own needs for the mission, for their unit, for maybe even their family in some cases, but there's nothing wrong with taking the knee and seeking the help you do need. Because the last thing, I would rather somebody seek help and maybe not go out to the field for 4 weeks than not seek help and be broken when they're 40, when they retire. So in the civilian world, yeah, you don't want to bring your work home with you. And some guys are arrogant, or some guys, they're used to yelling at this guy and getting away with whatever they say. It's hard not to do that sometimes when somebody's walking 2 miles an hour in front of you at Publix, right? So you do have to realize, you do have to take the hat off when you get home. One guy had a really good way of doing it. He would get home, he would take off his uniform in the garage, he would hang his hat up, he would have a beer, just kind of relax, and then he would go in and talk to his family. And that was a good way for him to transition. And I think the same applies for just soldiers in general. You know what I mean? You might be a sergeant major at work, but you're not gonna talk to your wife like a sergeant major and make her stand at parade rest, are you? And if you do, it's probably not gonna last very long. So I definitely recommend learning how to separate the two. So I actually got divorced on the trail, mainly because my ex-wife slept with an E4 when I was in drill sergeant school, but that's neither here nor there. However, it definitely has a hard impact on the family. The way I describe it is, it's like you're home, but you're not home. So in a way, it's almost worse than being deployed because, yeah, I'm home, but I got just enough time to go home, kiss my wife, kiss my kids goodnight, and then I gotta get up and go back again the next day. You know, often you're working 16-hour days. You're there at 4 in the morning, you wake them up at 4:30, you're leaving at 8:30 p.m. and then you're not getting home until 2100. When I was single, that was rough because I didn't have time to go home and cook. I would go get fast food. I would eat like shit. I would stay up watching a new show on Netflix until midnight and then have to be up in 3 hours. Like that was, work-life balance was a huge stressor for sure. Being on set's a great experience. You know, you get to relive some of your Army days, the camaraderie, the structure. Like there's no matter what line of work you're in, there's nothing quite like the military. And yeah, you're not gonna miss everything, but you're gonna miss the people, and that gives you a good taste of it. But I love the laid back environment. I love how, you know, they call you talent, which feels cool. They kind of cater to you a little bit, but you feel like a star, you know what I mean? But also just being around other people with similar mindsets, that's huge.
Pull your head out of your fourth point of contact. That's a goddamn chapter if I've ever seen one. Look, you're fucking fine.
Some people think it's funny, some people may not, but for the most part, I think everybody can relate to it. And everybody can find it funny if you have a good sense of humor. Not everybody does, but for the most part, it's definitely built for them. And anybody that's been a grunt, anybody that's been in the field, anybody that's deployed, there's something to laugh at and something they can enjoy. And normally you have to kind of have a dark sense of humor in order to cope with the stresses of this job.
Are you starting first class Freeman?
Yes.
Oh.
I would definitely be a drill sergeant all over again. You don't get paid what you're worth, but it's still a very rewarding experience. It's like having a kid. You get to watch them grow, make that transition from civilian to soldier, and there's nothing quite like it. Even as an officer, I'd still say it's a highlight of my career, very rewarding experience, but at the same time, it is what you make it. And guys that come in there, do the bare minimum, got DA selected, don't want to be there, they're gonna have a rough time. Guys that are motivated, that go there, that are able to manage the work-life balance, they'll really enjoy it. And I have met a few people that regretted it, but on average, even the people that are DA selected didn't think they'd like it, do end up liking it at the end of the day. And the impact you have on those soldiers, they'll remember you forever.
Stand up straight and look at me. It is our mission to train each one of you to become a United States Marine.
To be a drill instructor is 100% the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's physically demanding, mentally demanding. You're working 3 months at a time, 15, 16-hour days.
I was up for 24 hours, I didn't sleep. I think I didn't sleep for like 2 days straight.
The Marine Corps is the best of the best of the best. Drill instructors are the best of the best of the best with honors.
They say the drill sergeants are the top 10% of the Army.
When it comes to not being hard enough, my personality is, okay, you want to see intent? I'm gonna show you intent.
You have a lot of alpha males and alpha females in the drill field, and it's dog eat dog. You're just always trying to be the best you can be.
That is for your safety, not ours. Do you understand? Yes, sir!
A lot of former drill instructors don't know how to turn it off.
Do not take this persona of drill sergeant into your home.
I served some time in jail because I violated an order. My career ended the way I didn't want it to end, so it's been rough.
Okay. It's just now hitting me. It hasn't hit me yet until like this.
As far as the mental aspect, you need to be mentally tough.
I think the military really pulled something out of me that I might not have known was in there.
First general order is to take charge of the government property.
My drill instructors, oh goodness. My senior drill instructor, he was a monster. Seeing them for the first time, it was so surreal that I'm actually doing this. This is the real deal.
The main thing we're trying to accomplish is just survival. You know, you got to break them out of the shitty civilian habits they're in and let them know, hey, mommy and daddy aren't here anymore. And you could go in a combat zone in which your life's going to be at risk.
If a recruit's not trained properly, I mean, they can easily get the Marines killed in combat.
Do the mission, get it done. You're tired, keep going.
Run! You give the rubber me the other day.
Come on,
Rubber me first.
Come on,
I don't care who you are.
McCarthy, stand